Opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Scarefest Television. I'm your host, Wes Forsyth. The original broadcast date is August 7th, 2020. I think that's the first time I haven't dicked that up in like 2 months. It's this whole quarantine COVID thing has got me climbing the walls. Tonight we are offering you author of Memoirs of a Future Ghost, Heather Dobson, and we have for co-host this evening Mr. Chad Harlan, who I am envious because he shaved his head completely bald and his hair has already grown back during this entire ordeal. Of course, it's been like a year now. It seems like it's been like a year now.
There's been plenty of time, and it's really only two of them. I just wrap them real
well, okay, yeah. The best comb over ever, the best comb over ever. Everybody, quick reminder, CyberCon. Scarefest CyberCon coming up August 29th. Tickets are on sale now. Go to thescarefest.com, click the CyberCon link, and it will take you to a page that'll take you to another page that you can buy tickets. Or you can go to scarefest.artfarm.tv. Or just click links. There's always links. There's always links everywhere. And that's about it. We're starting to get our plans together for CyberCon as far as what we're doing. I spent most of the afternoon editing video for one of our exhibitors, and we're ready to go now. So let's bring Heather on.
Hey, Wes.
Hello.
Hey, Wes. Sorry.
I am just so excited because every now and then I get somebody, and you can tell that they know how to work Skype. They've done this stuff before, and so this is just going to be an absolute breeze.
Awesome. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Now, everyone, Memoirs of a Future Ghost offers unique perspectives on paranormal topics, ghost, UFOs, Mothman, orbs, interspersed with empirical science, tempered against agnostic beliefs with humorous undertones. One of those rare books this person could not put down. That was Larry Flaxman, a renowned paranormal investigator. So let's get right into it. Memoirs of a Future Ghost. First of all, that's a catchy title. So let's
yes, it is.
What made you think about being a future ghost?
It was actually Halloween a few years ago, and I was trying to come up with a costume. And I, had been investigating the paranormal for several years at that point. And I thought to myself, when we investigate the paranormal and we do our electronic voice phenomena sessions, we're always trying to be courteous and kind to whatever may be there that we're trying to communicate with, because they were once people too. Okay, so if they were once people, there's a possibility that I will be a ghost. So I'm a future ghost. So that's how I came up with that. So
now I will say my personal belief system is that ghosts are dead people. They cannot follow instructions. So in other words, when you die, you're supposed to do something else.
Right.
Whether it's go to heaven or just go through the light or whatever it is, there is a progression we're supposed to follow. And ghosts are just, like I said, people that cannot follow instructions. And based on that, I'm still respectful, but at the same time, I think ghosts can smell bullshit, and I think if you're nicer to them than you would be to the guy in Walmart, for example, I think they know that.
Right. Well, I feel like sometimes you'll definitely gather more flies with honey than you will with vinegar. And so I am not generally a mean person. You've really got to
Okay.
just completely get me. Yeah, rub me the wrong way. So
it comes natural to you.
Right. So I'm generally a nice person. That's how I'm going to be 99.9% of the time. So that's how I try to be when I investigate the paranormal. I don't like egging spirits on or getting in their faces or anything like that. Now, I do like to use era cues, and I have been known here in the South in Georgia when I investigate to break out the Emancipation Proclamation if it's a location that used to, play a large part in the Confederate side of the Civil War or what have you. But that's about as antagonistic as I get.
Well, see, now I call that passive.
Passive aggressive.
Not.
Okay.
Okay, provoking, passive provoking.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
in other words, I'm a bad neighbor. I'm not, I'm not calling them out. I'm not doing anything like that. But like one thing we tried and we've had some luck. Like if you have a really dark basement that you don't want to investigate just because it stinks and it's dark and smelly, get one of those disco strobe lights and put down there. Just because there is nothing more annoying on earth than a disco strobe light. So we actually had some luck with that. So it sounds like we're on the same page investigating style wise. Since I'm just going by your bio, the word agnostic was mentioned. So I was wondering at what point in your investigative career did you actually invest yourself in the idea that ghosts were actually spirits and just not bullshit or something like that?
I would have to say it took about a year and a half into investigating. I'd never had an experience personally, and I started investigating in 2008. And I started just because I had horrible anxiety about death, a really bad fear, and it got 100% worse after I had children. So this was my way of, meeting my fear of death head on. So I'd never had an experience. And I was very skeptical. I'm not sensitive at all. So I can't sense anything paranormal around me or around anyone else. And when I had that first experience that I could not explain, I could not recreate it, there were other people witness to it, that's when I started to realize that regardless of whether it's something that can be explained through physics or can be rationally explained in other ways or is a ghost, it's something strange that's part of the human experience that I can't explain or fully understand.
Absolutely 100% in agreement. Chad, over to you.
Good evening.
Hello.
We were talking earlier. I said I told you I was partway through the book, and I'm finding it a delightful read. It's very incisive, and an enjoyable story.
Thank you.
Could you kind of give us a little background? And I know you go into it in there about how you found your interest in the paranormal.
I grew up in West Virginia. And I grew up with a father who told me stories about the Mothman, the Braxton County Monster, the Greenbrier Ghost. I grew up practically living every summer at my grandparents' farm in Greenbrier County. So I'm very familiar with these stories. And they naturally led me to an interest in the paranormal. Those were the types of books I gravitated towards as a child. And, when I got older, I realized, I'm not limited to what my parents want me to read, gifting me Judy Blume and Hardy Boys mysteries and that kind of thing. I can go to the library or the bookstore and get whatever the heck I want to read. And ghosts absolutely fascinated me in the paranormal. And Hans Holzer had put out, this big, thick hardback book of ghosts. That was one of my first hardback purchases back when I had money in college, when I could scrape up a few dollars. And that thing just cover to cover just got me. And then, of course, I read The Demonologist by Gerald Brittle, focusing on the work of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And that book kept me up at night. And so it just absolutely, ballooned from there. And I devoured everything I could read.
You mentioned just a few minutes ago your fear of death that
Yes.
you've had. How did the paranormal kind of affect that? Was it soothing or something that you found elevated your anxiety?
It actually calmed my anxiety. What made it so bad for me was I'd figured out how to cope with that anxiety as a single entity, just me. Um, and then when I had children, it became less about my death and more about their deaths. And so many people talk about, oh my gosh, the sex talk with kids, that's so difficult, or potty training is so difficult. No, when they realize that they die someday, that's the moment when that magic of childhood ends. And I could not with a straight face look at my children and give them some platitude that I myself did not believe in. And so I needed to be able to look them in the eyes and say, when you die, it's not an end. There is a further existence. And that absolutely calmed me after I had those first few experiences and knew that there was something there.
Now, one of the things I found humorous, but you mentioned in there the tools that new parents need.
Yes.
uh, you want to kind of share with the audience your recommendations on that?
Yes. Everybody tells you to go to Babies R Us or Walmart or Target and register for diapers and clothes and thermometers and monitors and all that sort of thing. And my daughter, it was the 15th request for water and hugs. And finally she pulled the old, there's a monster in the closet trick. And no amount of telling her there wasn't anything in there or under her bed convinced her, because it was invisible, or as she put it, invitable. And so that's when I got the brilliant idea, because the kids knew at that point that, yes, mommy went out and hunted ghosts. It was kind of this amorphous idea. And at the time we had brought on a new investigator who was absolutely fascinated with Bigfoot. He was our Bigfoot specialist. And so I could, technically tell the kids, oh, we hunt monsters too, whatever. So I told her, I said, okay, I'm going to go get my K2 meter and I'm going to prove to you that there's nothing here. And I explained to her how it worked and what it did and what it would do if it sensed something paranormal in the area. And of course, it didn't go off under her bed or in her closet. And she was quite content to go to bed. And we repeated the same action the next night and never had a problem after that. And so I highly recommend that new parents buy K2 meters.
I think it's excellent advice.
Yes.
With that, though, we'll toss it back over to Wes for, I believe we're close to our first break.
Awesome.
Yes, we're going to hear from our first sponsor of the evening and our movie review all the way from Australia.
Spirit Mechanics is here to help. Their background includes many different specialties across the metaphysical spectrum, including alchemy, shamanism, Celtic witchcraft, angelic magic, astral travel, and more.
With over 30 years combined experience in the group, you can be confident in their ability to help. If there is a question you have that you cannot answer, they will do their best to assist you.
Metaphysics can be intimidating, confusing, and unfortunately, abused. Spirit Mechanics takes pride in being selfless in the pursuit of helping others, being humble and honest with their clients about their questions, and lastly, maintaining a professional and personable atmosphere. They want you to feel as you are coming to a close friend, and they will do everything in their power to make you comfortable and safe.
Hey there, Scarefest fans. Glenn here from FakeShemp.net. It's great to be with you for another week. Sorry I wasn't there last week. I had a commitment that I couldn't get out of and was not able to deliver a segment for you. So thanks to Wes for playing an old one. I think it was The Loved Ones, which is a great film. I covered that a few months ago, and massive kudos to Meredith for picking that one up in the chat room, she realized that I had talked about it before. So I guess what that says to me is that somebody's watching. Better one than none. I've got another great one for you this week. This is a real chiller. It's kind of scary. Let's have a look. So this is a scary little film from 2010, and it's called The Reef. And if you're a fan of shark movies, this one is for you. I honestly don't have to tell you much about the story because the trailer speaks for itself, and to be honest, it's about as formulaic as they come. I mean, if you've seen movies like Open Water or The Shallows, then you get the drift. Man, that was a really bad pun. But of course, I don't say those things with any criticism because there's nothing wrong with formula. Hell, most movies that we love are formula. And I guess the point of difference between a bad movie and a good movie is just how well they're executed. And The Reef is executed brilliantly. As you can see, a bunch of friends become stranded in the ocean and they're encircled by ravenous great white sharks. And the reason that this movie works is because, well, firstly, it plays on our natural primal fear of sharks. And secondly, it's written and performed and shot so beautifully. This was director Andrew Trauke's second feature film following Black Water, which I covered a few months ago here on Scarefest TV. And where that one was a crocodile story, he essentially reenacts the premise with sharks in this one. And to his credit, he's taken lessons that he learnt from his debut experience, and then he's applied them to this sophomore outing. And the result is just terrifying. The film uses these long, stretched out moments of silence with the sound of water lapping, and then chomp! A big mofo shark snaps out of the water, scaring the absolute shit out of the characters and just about everyone watching the damn movie. The poster art and the trailer we're watching, they also state that The Reef is inspired by true events, which is somewhat true. But then again, just about every damn shark movie can say the same, because down here we have so many stories of death and survival with shark attacks that you can simply slap that tagline on any poster and just claim it to be true. And it doesn't really matter, so long as the movie's good, right? So there's not much else to say about it. Like I said, the trailer speaks for itself. It's a very, very scary film, and for those who love these types of horror movies, it's also so much fun. Look, I don't know about you, but shark movies scare the shit out of me every time, and that movie is very effective, and just watching the trailer alone creeps me out. Anyway, if you like the look of that one and you want to watch it, it's on Amazon Prime. I know most of you have that streaming service, so it's easy to get your hands on. Anyway, that's about it from me. Thank you once again for sticking it out with me. Don't forget to listen to my podcasts. I've got Good Movie Monday, which lands in America on a Sunday. And don't forget to listen to Scarefest Radio Reanimated on a Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. And in fact, just listen to both of them whenever you have time. They're both online. Scarefest Radio is on the Scarefest page. Anyway, I'm doing what I always do. I'm talking too much and babbling on. So I'll just keep talking until I fade myself down. So I guess I'll see you next week.
And welcome back to Scarefest Television. Tonight we are talking to author Heather Dobson, author of Memoirs of a Future Ghost. First of all, I'm going to nitpick one thing. You took a big chance walking into any room in your house with a K2 meter to use it to show your daughter that nothing was going on, because all it would have taken is like somebody driving down the street with the radio too loud and the son of a bitch would have went off.
I know, right? Well, luckily we're in a quiet neighborhood in a cul-de-sac, so you know. I can just see you getting a text message right when you're showing her, and you know, right. And all heck breaks loose. But what's really funny is that, you know, as they got older, one of our first pieces of video evidence that we ever got, that we could not explain or recreate or anything like that, it was a shadow figure. And you know, the fellow investigator who caught it, she had emailed it to me and said, you know, okay, well, watch it this moment, you know, it's going to happen this many minutes in. And all three of my kids were gathered around me in the kitchen around my computer, and we all saw it at the same time. And instead of being scared, the three of them were cheering along with me, like, oh, that was the greatest thing ever. That was so cool. And so I was like, yay, I have like three little future investigators. It's, it's like the Boy Scouts or something. They need merit badges. I don't know. So,
now, so far, speaking to you, it sounds like you have a healthy view of the paranormal field.
yes.
Now, I'm going to turn that around on you, though, and what is your opinion of what you see going on around you in the paranormal field?
I think the biggest disappointment for me is there seems to be a lack of working together, if that makes sense. We've had problems in the past where we've gone on investigations and we go to a client's home who's called in another group previous to us. And so we ask the group, hey, do you have any evidence that you can share with us? Because we're coming into, Susie's house, and she said she called you guys and that you all had captured voices or what have you, and they refused to share it. And, our opinion is that any evidence that we collect, it's not ours, it's the client's. And if the client wants to, send it to USA Today, that's their prerogative. And if we put it on our website and they want us to take it down, it's their prerogative. And if another group comes in that they call after us and that group wants to see what we got, have at it, please. I think that's the biggest disappointment. I know there are some groups out there that share and absolutely are welcoming of other groups and other opinions and investigative styles, but overall, I think the proprietary nature of paranormal investigations is kind of frustrating.
I would say there's two things going on there. First of all, about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the paranormal groups out there are hoping for a TV deal.
Good luck with that.
but the statistics are there. The other thing, now I noticed this early on, even before everybody went full on television, groups get very territorial.
Yes, they do.
I've not noticed it as much. Of course, I've not done that many residentials where I had to rely on a group. But I know even when they'll hone in on a public location that are booking tours every night of the week, and they'll act like it's, this is our space. This is, we do the real work.
Right.
Now, when you're investigating, to just take this in a totally different direction, when you're investigating, now we've talked about a K2 meter, and I'm not even going to go into it because here's my philosophy on a K2 meter. Mm-hmm. I think that it is the best thing about a K2 meter. It is so sensitive, it'll pick up anything. And that's also the worst thing about one. So I pretty well, except for public tours where, I'm just trying to do my dog and pony show, I don't like it. What equipment do you rely on most for evidence that you like dispersing?
My favorite pieces of evidence are just an audio recorder, just because the most evidence that we seem to collect is audio in nature. So I don't go anywhere without an audio recorder. And then honestly, the other thing that I like, that I prefer over a K2 or a Mel meter or anything like that, is we have a geophone, a vibration pod that gives off a noise and a light. And if I set it on a stable base that I know, okay, if I breathe on this, it's not going to go off. You've really got to stomp on it or around it to get it to go off. I prefer using that over a millimeter or a K2 or a flashlight, because I really don't trust the flashlights that have been unscrewed. No. That's ridiculous. I like the vibe pod because that's something that can be tapped. If something can manifest itself to affect its physical surroundings, it can gently tap on a vibe pod for a yes or no, for a yes answer or something of that nature. And so I absolutely love our vibe pod or our geophone, to use it in that way.
Now I've never used a geophone in that particular way. Now I've actually got one somewhere. We used to set it up, just basically we would use it like if we were in a really big area and we were on this end, we for more than anything, was just to say, well, maybe we ought to be over on that end instead, because it's going off.
Well, and definitely if you're having reports of footsteps, I mean, you definitely want to use a vibe pod for that rather than, something, like flour that's going to cause a mess, which is cool if you can actually get footprints in it, but it's a mess and a half. But, it was on an investigation that we did where the family was really worried because the daughter was seeing shadows and they were freaking out. And, it was like, she would see something pacing at the end of her bed. And so we started asking yes, no questions, and it was responding with the yes. It would go off. And I thought, well, why aren't we using this tool as a way to ask questions and get, yes, no answers? And so that's when I started using the Vibe Pod, and I love it. I really do.
Chad, over to you.
I want to go back to, I believe you mentioned it already. I know you talk about it in your book, that you've got a physics background.
Yes. I have a bachelor's degree in physics from North Georgia College. It's now the University of North Georgia. And I did a semester of undergraduate research at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, studying plasma, the effects of plasma in the polar magnetosphere. And so I decided not to study for a master's degree because it's not really what I wanted to do. I actually got into technical writing, and then at some point went completely left field and got a certification in teaching scuba diving. So it was completely different. But yeah.
And that's a valid profession because I'm a tech diver. So completely support your scuba session.
Yes.
But your background in physics, and you're just talking to Wes about some of the equipment and stuff they use. Have you found that it affects your investigations, or how does your investigations affect your thoughts and feelings on your physics knowledge?
I feel like having a background in physics, or even just having a background in science in general, makes you a natural born skeptic and makes you want to conduct investigations in a scientific manner. I'm really proud of my team in that we always try to conduct investigations with a control group and an experimental group. The control group knowing nothing but the address, the experimental group knowing everything, investigating separately and trying to get the same results that just validate what the client's going through. As far as how the experiences have changed my perception, my scientific, ideas, I like being able to think of the paranormal in a scientific way. Maybe it's not a spirit, maybe it's a parallel quantum universe, or maybe it's quantum entanglement, or maybe it's, something else that we just haven't figured out yet. Our math isn't there quite yet. So I don't know. I think it makes me think of it in a wider manner. And I'm not so narrow-minded as far as, science says this, so it can't be. Well, we haven't proven everything out there. So who knows? I hope that made sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
My day job is I actually investigate crimes and frauds.
Oh, wow.
And so I've got spent 3 years as a biology major, so I didn't finish that degree, but I bring a lot of that with it. And a lot of what I talk to people about is kind of that, is the difference between evidence and phenomenon.
Right.
Is that a lot of the stuff we collect wouldn't raise to the level of being scientific proof. But it's looking at that as to how to interpret it and how it builds on things too, that we can start raising to that level. So it's always interesting to me to talk to somebody else with a more scientific and experiment-based background than and how they apply that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting up. I'm sorry.
No, I said definitely.
We're getting close to 9:30, so let me toss back over to Wes and look at that next break.
Perfect.
We've got another sponsor coming up. As a matter of fact, 2 sponsors, including our new one, Horror Movies for Life.
Everyone is talking about CBD oil, and it seems like almost everyone is using it. The research is ongoing, but the apparent health benefits are overwhelming. If you're going to use CBD products, though, what brand should you buy? First, find out where the hemp was grown. Imports are flooding the market. How potent is it? Look for a brand that plainly states its concentration on the label. And look for full spectrum CBD. This means the oil contains CBD and all the other cannabinoids, terpenes, and nutrients that are found in the entire cannabis plant. Look for Blue Leaf CBD oil. Blue Leaf Naturals is a Kentucky proud company. They use only Kentucky-grown hemp, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses. Visit their website at blueleafcbd.com now and use the code SMILE at checkout for free shipping.
Horror. Movie. Fans. For. Life. Find us. For news. For memes. For life.
Horror movie history this week brings us the directorial debut of Tom Holland with the release of Fright Night back in 1985. Horror fanatic Charlie Brewster discovers that his new next-door neighbor is responsible for recent unsolved murders, and even more so, he's a vampire. With no one believing his story, he enlists the help of his favorite actor who plays a vampire slayer on TV, but doesn't actually believe they are real until he's proven otherwise. Fright Night was released during the height of the 80s slasher era, but this vampire flick delivered the perfect amount of comedy, horror, and even a bit of sexiness that skyrocketed to the top, and it became the highest-grossing horror movie in the summer of '85. Surprise endings in films are usually a good thing, and back in 1999, The Sixth Sense delivered arguably one of the best endings in horror movie history. Written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, this film is about a young boy who sees and communicates with dead people and a child psychologist who takes him on as a patient in order to redeem himself and help the child. Upon release, the film was an instant success and made Shyamalan a household name. Audiences were captivated by the actors' performances, storyline, and most notably, the surprise ending. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you've no doubt seen or heard the movie referenced in pop culture, and undoubtedly, you've heard one of the most well-known lines in movie history. I see dead people.
And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest Television. We are talking to Heather Dobson, author of Memoirs of a Future Ghost. And during the commercial break, these two were talking about diving, and I just want to put it out there. I am actually surprised that Chad's head doesn't just float. So, just to put that out there. One thing, awesome. Now, one thing you said a little while ago, I would also add, when you were talking about the physics and the math isn't there yet, see, I've not encountered anything in the paranormal. I'm not one of those people that says, well, there's some things science just can't explain. No, it can explain it. It hasn't got there yet. Right. I believe these are spirits. I believe they're ghosts. I do take a somewhat Judeo-Christian view of things, but at the same time, I think physics can explain God at the end of the day, and that's when the world ends, and that might be where we are now. I did want to ask you, now you said earlier about being you're not sensitive, you're not psychic. Now, just to warn you, when I got into the paranormal field, that's what I said. I used the phrase, I'm psychic as a rock. And then
I always tell people I'm a gray rock. I don't sense it. I don't get it. Yeah.
I opened myself up through the help of some proclaimed psychics. And now, in a lot of ways, it has enhanced at least my enjoyment of investigations, because honestly, I think that investigation is one of the most boring things to do in the world. But,
yes.
But I have, looking back, I've watched my progression from someone who, did not believe I had any psychic gifts to someone that now, I'm not a medium by any means, but there are certain things that I can do that will, kind of impress psychics. Have you noticed any change in at least in your observational, the side of it, that maybe exposure to the paranormal has brought on?
I've only had one instance that really blew my mind. And, I think it was because the room was quite literally crowded with spirits. We were at an old house in North Georgia called the Chastain House. And we were all sitting in a back room of the house, the investigators and myself. And I felt like the room was crowded. And there weren't that many of us in the room. There were maybe 4 of us standing there. But it felt like I was on a subway train. That's how crowded it felt. And I didn't say anything. And the lady across from me, who was a sensitive, said, "Wow, there are a lot of spirits in here. They're all wanting to talk." And of course, I did a double take. I was like, "What? That's crazy. That's just crazy." So I'm a bit of a control freak. And I've been told many times, if you train yourself, you can open yourself up and become sensitive. Everybody has the ability. And I think, okay, I kind of want to do that, but I don't. I don't know if I'll ever be ready for it. We'll see. But that's the only time I've ever had an experience where I felt the same as a sensitive. And I think it's only because there were so many there pushing in, trying to communicate.
Now, first of all, going on an investigation with a full-blown sensitive or medium, it's a train wreck waiting to happen. As far as being a serious investigation, I
right.
Absolutely, and that includes myself. I will spoil an investigation just like that. But now I will say one thing, because you've had that experience, I would say that in the future, if you would keep a little notepad with you, and just as you have feelings, write them down in the time, and see if they ever correlate to evidence that you might collect, and you might surprise yourself. And I'm not saying that I'm not one of those everybody's a psychic. I'm one of those. I really think immersion in the paranormal field opens us up. Yes, whether we want it to or not. Now, if you do start opening up, I will also tell you, you don't have to pour salt around your house, but verbalize that my house is a no-go zone. Best thing I ever did.
Yep.
Now, this is my personal weakness. I am a douser. I look at science. You can give me a video, and I will debunk it. I've never seen a flashlight experiment in my life, that sold me on anything. Photos can be too easily manipulated. Videos, lesser so, but still. I looked at a photo today that someone had given me, and they said, "There's a face in the window." And I agree. If you look at it on your phone, it looks like a face in the window. If you blow it up, it looks like the reflection of leaves on the tree that is visible. So anyway,
exactly.
But just out of curiosity, have you been around anybody using dowsing?
I have, and I don't trust it, because to me, it's the ideomotor reflex. The same as, when you use the Ouija board, the planchette on the Ouija board. And I would like to see an experiment where it's a person holding dowsing rods and then 2 vice grips holding dowsing rods.
Okay, now I'm gonna here's
so
my
that's what I would like.
Here is my. It's not even a scientific explanation. It's a medical theory. First of all, you're correct. It is the ideomotor effect. Everyone, for the home people playing the home version, ideomotor effect is your body's involuntary response, usually to an outside stimulus. Now, first of all, as a dowser, I will tell everybody they're as accurate as a 50-cent wristwatch.
Yeah.
But now, one experiment we have done that we've had some luck with, Christopher Maggard was taping down to a local hunt, and he heard we were dowsers, and he wanted to debunk them. I said, well, I've been wanting to try something. These ghosts are very interactive, so we're going to douse, and you ask questions, and see if you get EVPs to match our dowsing.
That's interesting.
And we did. So the way I look at dowsing is I don't count on it for accuracy, but I count on it for interaction. In other words, I get the ghost interest, and then hopefully they'll say, okay, this is going nowhere. Let's talk to the digital recorder. I did want to ask you, now you brought up some other things, parallel universes and all the physics stuff. Do you follow that belief structure, though, kind of like I do, that it's ghosts are actual, what we would define as spirits, and we just haven't figured out how to follow up?
I do think that some hauntings, some intelligent hauntings, are spirits of people who have died, and that for whatever reason are either involuntarily or voluntarily stuck here. Maybe they have unfinished business, or maybe they haven't figured out how to move on, or what have you. But I do think that I tend to believe that residual hauntings are either recordings, like the idea of the stone tape theory, or parallel quantum universes where the person is still alive and there's a slip there that we can somehow see that or experience that. But I do think some intelligent hauntings are people.
Okay, I was going to toss it on over Chad, but residual hauntings make my ass itch. And the reason is, when people talk, the stone tape theory in particular, I have issues with that too. I have issues with the stone tape theory also, because limestone is not going to record a damn thing. It's no. If you're going to look at a geology of a location as something that could store information, it has to be quartz or some quartz heavy rock, because that's the only thing that's the only type of geology that really has any sort of, it has a piezoelectric effect. So you're building an electric charge with pressure added to the system. Not limestone. Stop with the limestone. I'm willing. I look at it all the same, because it doesn't. Because I had one investigator tried to convince me that when we go into an old house and it happens, it's because the nails are rusty, and
oh my gosh, I heard that too. I wanted to die when I heard that.
Because audio tapes used to be made out of rust. Now, all that being said, though, my problem with the entire concept is that even if you can record it in quartz, recordings are done in a linear fashion. A rock or something would just absorb it all as a big glob, and I cannot find any example in the real world of anything from a cassette tape to a DVD playing back without mechanical intervention.
Exactly. And I agree that it is frustrating trying to figure out that mechanism by which it is replaying.
Now, the mechanism is the intelligent haunt. That's my belief. I believe. In other words, I'm not saying things can't be recorded, but I think the way they're recorded in the mind of whatever it is we're dealing with, and what we're saying is, one guy calls it a hologram. I'm not, because I've not actually seen one on video. I actually just think it's something that we see, and may not even be appearing on recorded media. Well,
and I wonder how much of it is the power of living consciousness, the idea of the tulpa or the thought form of, your grandpa always got up at 2 a.m. to raid the fridge and made the stairs creak when he would go up and down the stairs to get to the kitchen. And now he's gone. And at 2 a.m. you still hear the stairs creak when he goes for his midnight snack post-mortem. So how much of that is a residual haunting, or how much of that is wishful thinking that grandpa was still there to go get his midnight snack at 2 a.m.?
Okay, because I
make
stole...
sense?
Absolutely. And because I stole Chad's time there, I'm going to go to the commercial break. When it comes back, Chad, it's all you.
Chad. Yay.
Mama Ruby offers fun vendor-based events that focus primarily on the metaphysical and spiritual aspects of our lives. Well, 2020 didn't go as planned, to say the least. Since Mama Ruby's can't bring the vendors to you in person, they still encourage you to support them online. For links to these and other outstanding artists, craftspeople, vendors, and psychics, visit mamarubies.com and click shop.
When the drum beats, we hear the call of spirit. Join Coyote Chris Sutton and Charlotte Hardin as they discuss the different spiritual paths with those who walk them. Monthly on scarefestradio.com. Watch the Scarefest Facebook page for updates.
One of the most infamous murders in U.S. history took place this week, back in 1892, in the small town of Fall River, Massachusetts. This quiet town was rocked to its core on August 4th, when the bodies of Andrew and Abby Borden were found brutally murdered inside their family home. Their daughter, Lizzie Borden, was immediately named a suspect in the killings and taken into custody. Despite the evidence against her and the lack of other suspects, Lizzie was acquitted of the murders, but the case captivated the nation and made Lizzie Borden a household name. She has since remained in American pop culture and been depicted in many films, books, theatrical productions, and even a children's rhyme.
Hey, Scarefest fans, this is going to be kind of a quick one this week. I'm Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. I will have a new movie review for you later this week. I apologize, a couple things in my life. Also trimmed the beard a little bit for you ladies or gentlemen out there who liked it a little longer. I'm sorry. And I want fan mail from both of you. We're going to talk about horror comedies. Horror comedies? No, horror comedies. There's not a lot of good ones. Horror and comedy seem to go together like peanut butter and jelly, but there's not a ton of good ones, and most of them are never successful. There's a few outliers that I won't talk about this week. Shaun of the Dead, American Werewolf in London. But here are three that I really enjoy and you should check out. Now, we're going to talk about a couple. The first two are a little bit more well-known. Number one, What We Do in the Shadows, directed by Taika Waititi. It also has Jermaine Clement in it. It's about vampire housemates trying to cope with the complexities of their lives, what's going on, all those wonderful things. There's a great FX show now based on it. Check it out. If you've not seen What We Do in the Shadows, you can watch that on Hulu, What We Do in the Shadows. The next one I think most of you have seen, but I'm always shocked at what people haven't seen. Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is on Netflix. You got Hulu? Watch What We Do in the Shadows. You got Netflix? Check out Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I watched this when it came out, and I still love it. It is still one of my favorite horror comedies I've ever seen because it has genuine heart. Horror comedies often don't work because there's not any heart to them. And these two guys, Tucker and Dale, played by Tyler Labine and Alec Tudyk, are going off to the cabin in the woods, their own cabin, and have a good time. They're rednecks, fishing buddy, hunting buddies, and these teenagers just get in their way, and all these things, these bloody murders happen and accidents. It's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Actually, if you haven't seen it, stop watching the show and go watch it right now. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Number three may be more obscure, and this is the one that I really want you to watch. It's on Crackle. It's called Rubber. Now, what is it about? Is it about rubbers? No. It's about a car tire that comes to life with the power to make people explode and go on murderous rampages through the California desert. That's not actually the weirdest thing. It has a little bit of introduction explaining what this movie's going to like. You're either going to go along for the ride or not. It has a little bit of a heart to it. It played Chad and James, my friends, the other two boneheads. We have a Halloween party every year, or have most years, where we try to find the worst movie to show one another. And this one year was one of our picks. And the problem is that we really liked it. And I still like it. I still recommend Rubber. And you think, what do I want to watch? A movie about a killer tire. It's not bad. Check it out. Open your mind. Watch Rubber. This has been Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. Thank you so much. What We Do in the Shadows, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, but especially those other two you've seen, check out Rubber. Do yourself a favor and check out Rubber on Crackle.
Now over to Chad Harlan.
I want to follow up on a couple things, but also want to give you a few minutes. And I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
Usually it's Wes' question, but I'm going to steal it tonight. Mm-hmm. Now that we've been locked in the house for a few months under COVID house arrest, yes. Have you gotten out to do any investigation or anything going on that front?
I have not. We are my paranormal group is taking a hiatus. Not just because we had some problems with membership, but also, COVID-19 hit, and it is not a good idea to investigate. Now, one of my fellow investigators is originally from Canton, Georgia, which is just north of where I live. And it's a small town that is the county seat of Cherokee County, has a wonderful history. And she started a business up there 5 years ago and when other business owners found out that she was a paranormal investigator, they started telling her stories about stuff going on in their businesses. And so Stephanie called me and she said, I'm starting a ghost tour and you and I are going to be the guides. And so we have Canton Historic Haunts. We have started the tour season back up after the lockdown, but we're keeping it to a maximum of 9 tour goers plus the guide makes 10. So we've been able to do that and safely have a couple of tours each weekend. But other than that, it's been quiet on the paranormal front. I haven't done any investigations, unfortunately.
One of the things we always try to ask our paranormal guests is, do you have any guesses or educated ideas about how this is going to affect the locations?
I wonder if maybe places like the Queen Mary or Waverly Hills, Moundsville State Penitentiary or Moundsville Federal Penitentiary, I wonder if those places are calming down because they don't have the batteries of us wandering through them, constantly asking questions, constantly wishing for things to appear and manifest. I hope that whatever intelligent spirits are at these locations are getting a rest, honestly. They probably need it after every single night of, can you talk to us? Can you do this? Can you move that? Can you answer this question? So I do hope maybe they've quieted somewhat.
And it's always interesting for me to hear whether we hear some people saying that. We have a lot of psychics come in that say that it's just a revolving door. That since they're not getting all the attention at the locations, they're branching out to people they know that will be able to talk to them.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so I'm always interested to hear what ideas are, but it's going to be interesting to see if some of these locations either quiet down because they're not getting fed all the energy, or if it's all pent up. And as soon as everybody gets in there, they're going to, they haven't talked to anybody in 9 months. They're going to be wanting to try to talk to people.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, it's like lining up like at that house in North Georgia, just a crowd of them.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. The other thing I wanted to do is I know that you mentioned that you have another book coming out.
Oh my gosh, yes. It was originally supposed to already be out, but thanks to COVID-19, having to have my kids at home and helping them with school, my writing has stalled out. Instead of being able to come out as a summer, right now my goal is a Christmas release, so that it's in plenty of time for December for people to, get it for their loved ones as a gift or for themselves. And that gives me plenty of time to plan for it and to finish my writing. And then there will be a third book. The second book will be called Recollections of a Future Ghost. And the third book is Confessions of a Future Ghost. I don't know when the third book will be out, but it's in the works. It needs a very deep edit and a lot of fixing, but it'll get there.
Where are you taking us down the path? Now, I know the first one is Memoirs, so you kind of talk about your background quite a bit in it.
Yeah.
Where are we going with the next ones?
The next ones are just continuations of my investigations with Paranormal Georgia Investigations, the group I helped co-found. And the third book, Confessions, hopefully by the time I get to really write the meat of it, we will be out and about again, and I can do a lot more traveling to more well-known locations rather than private homes, because I'd like to give sort of a common sense viewpoint, paranormal investigative skeptical viewpoint of a lot of these locations that people, know about thanks to reality TV.
Well, I'll definitely be looking forward to them. I've really enjoyed the first one. Let me toss it back over to Wes for him to wrap it up for the night.
Thanks.
First of all, doesn't it suck to be home and not have time to do what you want to do?
Yes. I for some reason my hand gets on the keyboard and it's like a pheromone is released and the kids are like, "Hey."
Yeah. I don't have kids, but I understand the emotion. The being locked up, I'm thinking, okay, I've got all this time, and my creativity has just went to hell.
Yeah.
It's just
Same.
Now on the ghost. Now I want to point out that in most of your public locations, they're just there for the attention, so they are the ones crawling the walls. They're like, and nobody paying attention to me. Everybody, if you're playing the home version, go to afutureghost.com, afutureghost.com. That's our website. You'll find links to buy the book. Sounds like a good one. Everybody, there's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like, guys.
Heather, it's been great talking to you tonight. You've been an engaging and an informative guest, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Oh, I have enjoyed meeting you guys and getting to talk to you about my book, and I can't wait to do this again when the next one comes out. I appreciate it.
Everybody, this has been Scarefest Television. We'll be back next week.